Good morning, everybody. This is K. Balakrishna. Presently, we are dealing with the subject called as strategic management. In the strategic management, we are dealing with the topic called as resource allocation. Resource allocation is a prioritized task in day-to-day coming operations. This has gained its importance because large number of expenses are present at the company, and all the expenses cannot be 100% financed. So what do they do is the resources must be completely utilized to the maximum core level. So in this step, what do they do is they allocate the resources to the highest amount to the prioritized segments, and they allocate less amount of resources to the unprioritized tasks. Whatever it may be, resource availability is the biggest function, and the organizations that have highest amount of resources are existing in the are existing for a long period of time. If they completely manage the resources, if they completely manage the assets, if they completely control the expenditure, and the control resources can be carefully examined and completely utilized through a pakka plan of action. This plan of action is usually in the form of a resource allocation plan. What do you mean by resource allocation? Here there will be a large number of financial estimates, and each and every estimate has its own importance. So it is the manager who decides which estimate is having a higher priority and which estimate is having lowest amount of priority. Highest amount of priority are allocated huge amount of resources, and lowest amount of priority prioritized tasks are allocated less amount of resources. This prioritization of the resources is done because of the scarcity of resources, or we can say that expenses need to be planned heavily, so the resources are allocated here based upon the prioritization of tasks. Resource allocation means first and the foremost is assigning the task as well as managing the assets. That is, what are the revenues for the business are to be estimated, and what are the expenses of the company has to be estimated, and resource allocation must be done based upon the prioritization of the task. Next one is managing tangible assets is biggest thing. That is, tangible assets includes the material flow into the company, whether they need to be stocked or whether they need to be instantly ordered, must be a crucial decision. Next, apart from this, there are also non-tangible assets like human capital, that is human resources, who play a predominant role in the success or failure of any strategy which is launched into the organization. A resource allocation must be done in such a way that the minimum amount of expenditure is done and the best amount of returns on investment can be made. Here, resource allocation must always increase the revenue for the company. It must always improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity of the organization. It must increase the brand image, goodwill, name, fame, and recognition for the company. What are the frequently used resources? Frequently used resources include the physical resources like raw materials, semi-finished goods, spares, machines, and other things. What are the intellectual resources? Intellectual resources includes the patent rights, the copyrights, etc. Patents are the preservation of innovative ideas that they have developed, and copyrights are the right given to copy the innovative patent right registered by the innovators. Next one is human resources. That is the people who are present in the organization. Some organizations value their employees, some organizations value them as assets, and some organizations just treat them as a machine still. There's also a financial resources in the form of cash, in the form of financial securities, in the form of financial securities, in the form of shares, etc. They need to be managed. What are the guidelines for allocation of resources? First and the foremost is there must be a careful redistribution of wealth from time to time. Next one is they must also diversify the distribution. That is, they must carefully examine all related areas in the business, and resource allocation must be done to all the diversified tasks. Next one is stimulate automation. The automation in the sense technology must be upgraded, and this technology upgradation must be done by keeping in mind the financial resource availability present in the firm. Next one is optimum utilization of resources. There must be a careful examination of prioritized tasks, and resources must be allocated to the maximum extent to those prioritized tasks. And such a management is also called as priority management. Next one is necessity of effective resource allocation. Why do we require the resource allocation to the maximum? We require the resource allocation because some organizations are big, they can manage. Some organizations are small, it is very difficult to manage them. Next one is it also saves the financial expenditure. It also saves the wastage of financial resources. It also saves the wastage of money clearly because of malallocations. Next one is it also reduces the productivity of the organization. It increases the productivity of the organization. It improves the efficiency of the organization. It increases the effectiveness of performance of tasks. Next, it also resource allocation is also related to the time, in the sense some resource allocations are meant for short-term allocations, some are meant for long-term allocations. Based upon the project duration, they assign the resources. Based upon the project prioritization, they assign the task. Next one, improves staff morale. Staff morale means extent of satisfaction of the staff, extent of commitment that the staff has, extent of belief that the staff has. Next, predicts the future plan. Means the resources are allocated in such a way that it is purely based upon estimated plan, estimated budget, estimated revenue planning, and other things. Next, it is the strategic planning. Resource allocation is not a short-term process. Resource allocation is a long-term process. It fulfills all the project needs of the organization. Manage team workload, in the sense there is an even distribution of wealth, human capital, and other things in the organization. Next one is there must be a time log. Maintain accurate time log. How much time the project has to be completed, how much amount of resources they consume, what is the end results. These three things need to be correlated to the maximum. Next one is they eliminate the risk. Risk in the sense uncertainties will be handled well, and these uncertainties will be treated with the heavy hands. This is a brief discussion regarding what do you mean by resource allocation, what is the importance of resource allocation nowadays. It clearly outlines that it is a resource allocation is a beautiful strategy which helps to successfully manage the business, manage the business in spite of say, scarcity of resources and other things. Thank you.